Good evening, folks. My name is Walt, and when I'm not tripping around Galaxy's Edge on the official podcast for the Co-Emperors, I sometimes get to talk to authors about their cool books. In this case, it is Pete Nealen talking up Swords Against the Night, his latest from The Lost, which is book 4. How are you?
Not too bad.
Not too
Currently
bad.
about 32,000 words into book 5.
Yes! Oh my God. Uh, Absolutely awesome. You know, the thing I really enjoy about The Lost as a series is the utter freaking creepiness of some of the things they encounter. Because, at one point you're just like, and they're bashing swords together and blah, blah, blah. And then dudes start levitating and choking on their own, tongues. And I'm like, that's some straight up voodoo stuff. It's pretty dope.
Yep.
So I really enjoy it. When you finished your first trilogy, did you know you were going to do a book 4?
Yeah, well, 70-30.
70-30. Hey, Sonokin, what's going on, man? Ask some questions if you got them. Put them right in the chat.
Yeah.
So 70-30.
I knew I wanted to keep going, but it was kind of going to be up to how well Ice and Monsters did, and then subsequent with Shadows and Crows and Darkness and Stone. And I didn't know exactly where to start with. And in fact, I was actually going to do something else for book 4 and then book 5.
So surprising enough, Sonokin, who has been reading your books, he's like, so when is book 5?
I hope to have it finished by the end of August at the latest.
Nice.
When it comes out, that's up to the Emperors and Walt.
I'm just here to make all your wishes come true.
But
yeah, oh, go ahead, please.
I don't know how spoilery we want to get tonight. But,
so real quick, for those who have not encountered The Lost yet, can you talk a little bit about the first book and just give a brief synopsis going up into Swords Against the Night?
Okay, so a little over a year ago, Nick hits me up, says, I got a project in mind if you're interested. And from the initial information I got, I kind of thought he was thinking in terms of a Galaxy's Edge, or not a Galaxy, Forgotten Ruin spinoff. But he says, no, I want your series in this genre. And, okay, I can do that. And easier for me. I know a bunch of Rangers. I've worked with a bunch of Rangers over the last 8-9 years, but it's still easier for me to do recon. So I took a recon platoon and put them into a fantasy setting. And this is a fantasy setting that I get to build. So having gotten my start as a storyteller, at least for an audience, telling spook stories around campfires and giving Boy Scouts nightmares and or making them not sleep.
Are you the reason he needs therapy? You're welcome.
Yes. There's something back there, moving back there behind the tents, guys. I'm serious. There's something back there. That's when you know you did it. That's when you know you did it right. So I took that. I've been reading Tolkien since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and that kind of led me less towards the sort of following on from Tolkien and more back towards the older stories that Tolkien read and drew upon. So I decided I was going to go that way. And I'd had this kind of fascination for a long time with the idea of a world where that's not, it's almost more Conan-ish, where the spooky stuff is dangerous and you want to stay away from it, as opposed to the kind of fantasy where we're going to have this main character who's a wizard, and everybody uses magic in some way or shape or form. Saying no, 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 no. Sorcery is evil. Sorcery is dangerous, and you want to stay far, far, far away from it. And that's not just you go back to the pagan Romans, and that was you wanted to get crucified. A good way to do it was to be credibly accused of sorcery.
It's cold out. You guys have fire making stuff. I'm a witch.
Yeah. So this idea of where the shadows really are dangerous, the kind of stuff that you want to stay well away from, and that this world is where there are small enclaves, and everywhere else belongs to the monsters. And I'd kind of toyed with that a little bit with some writing I'd done previously, some of which may be coming to light soon through Wargate. But here I managed to take it and run with it. And I've started. I was kind of feeling things out with Ice and Monsters with this first throwing this recon platoon into this frozen Northland, haunted by spooks and monsters and terrible gray-skinned sorcerers turned monsters themselves. And the way I kind of decided to take it was that, just like a lot of us in the GWAT found ourselves working alongside people we didn't particularly trust or like, I was going to throw these guys in with Indige who were obviously bad guys. But as is the Marine Corps way, the officer doesn't want to believe that they're the bad guys. I may have stolen a broken and unreadable joke and adapted it in there about the deep cultural sensitivity of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, broken and unreadable is not around anymore. It was the better Marine grunt webcomic for a long time.
Oh, it's not around anymore?
I haven't seen it anywhere in years.
Oh wow!
A couple of the comics you can still find online, but
I take it that Low Pro is a guy that you know and embraces the Marine culture himself.
Oh yes. If y'all have watched any of my streams, the last two, Coop is Low Pro. So yeah,
right on.
Low Pro and I go back a ways.
How do you know they're bad guys if you haven't accepted their culture yet, Marine? Oh my God, you can totally take that Marine part out of it and put it right into like Army, Navy, because it's happened all over the place.
Right.
He was also saying the broken and unreadable guy is too busy reading Galaxy's Edge. He's on record.
Was that the broken and unreadable guy, or was that sketch? I thought that was sketch.
I thought that was sketch too. Yeah, man. Did you ever see Letters from the Blast Wave?
Letters that was after the Blast Wave.
After the Blast Wave, maybe. So there was it was a comic about these two like factions that constantly shooting at each other.
And neither of them has any idea why anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a nice analogy for a little bit. So, but yeah, so book one comes out, does really well. I read book one and I was floored. I was like, yes, I need like 9 more of these. Let me just put in the order now. It was really, really good. And the great part about it is, even though in my own career, I worked at some points very heavily with Marine Corps, right? It never bordered into that realm where if you weren't a Marine, you didn't get it. you did a very good job of translating that to somebody who doesn't speak Marine Corps. So I mean that was very, very well done. And but we then transition into Shadows and Crows, where favors are kind of called in and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about that book?
So, in some ways, Nick had said initially, as far as Wargate goes, hey, if you guys want to basically copy Forgotten Ruin, just do it. Well, book two, I wasn't necessarily going for straight up copying, but well, they had Undead in book two of Forgotten Ruin, and I'd done a vampire before in the Jed Horn series, but figured let's do it again. Let's do it again. Do it a little differently this time, and let's hint at some things going on in the background with bigger powers involved. And that basically started with, we're going to have a vampire, and we're going to have a little bit of 13th Warrior with the Corsairs.
A little bit. It was. I really enjoyed this book too, and for a lot of different reasons too. Because like in the first one, you get those Marines who are fish out of water. They have to try to adapt. Blah blah blah. This one is just like. You can almost picture the platoon going, yeah, we get it. Knights, armor, swords. Let's just go shoot some people.
Yeah. And if we run out of ammo, we've got blades now. Let's go hack them to pieces.
Yeah.
Because every Marine wants to get that knife kill.
It's true. You hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But the thing I really enjoyed about it was, they establish these relationships in the first book, and then the relationship turns right around, and kind of like you see when dealing with an indigenous population, it's like, hey, we had you over for breakfast. Can you help us go kill this bomb maker? It's like, dude, the eggs weren't that good.
I've seen denying that go sour too.
Yeah.
Where there's bad guys over there. They've got PKs. They've got RPGs. I can take you over there right now. No. That's not the mission. We're here for this mission. 2 weeks later, we come back and old boy's house is on fire and his 70-year-old grandmother's shot in the lung inside.
Oh, awful. Absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Leo's saying, I'm just going to say there needs to be a dialogue about MREs versus crayons.
That really became a thing after I got out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. Any idea where that sprung up from?
Not really. I mean, it's the old stereotype of the jarheads are dumb, which there's a reason why we called jump school Marine Corps Appreciation School. My company commander came back from jump school in 2007 and just said, I missed you guys. You're smart. You do what you're told.
Oh my God. My first encounter with an active duty Marine was, I had just come out of basic training, AIT. I only had so much interaction with Marines. The only Marines I'd really interacted with were recruiters, So we wake up one morning and we're all gathered around this one window watching the Navy liaison try and smoke a section of SEALs going through jump school because they did something weird. And the Marine that was kind of blocking the window, I said, excuse me, Sergeant. He whirled around on me. I thought he was going to try and thunder hump my face off. He was like, excuse me, 3 up, 1 down. I think I've earned the right to be called Staff Sergeant, young man. Now, he was saying that to me. He was maybe 3 years older than I was, and he was young man in me. I was like, I said, I'm sorry, Staff Sergeant. I said, it's an Army thing, blah, blah, blah. I know what it is, but it needs to be reinforced. I'm like, copy that, Staff Sergeant. I got you. So I was like,
I may have stirred some trouble up in jump school.
Did you really?
This female, I was talking to this Army sergeant. Well, he was guard, but he was still a sergeant.
Right on.
And this female private mouthed off to him, and he just kind of subsided. And I looked at him and it's like, how fucked up is your service that you let a private talk to a sergeant like that? Then the games began and ended with one of the Black Hats pulling all of the Marine, Navy, and a couple of Army NCOs together into a school circle and saying, I would love nothing less. I would love nothing more than to turn you loose on these turds, but I can't because
Yeah.
you're still in student status. And for some reason, I did nothing past that initial comment, but for some reason, he was looking at me the whole time. Granted, I may have thrashed the snot bubbles out of an Anglico Lance Corporal who showed up to formation in filthy camis.
What?
Yeah, and the Master Sergeant and I, who we only had a handful of Marines in the class, and so we kind of took control of the Marine contingent, and it was like, okay, you're 8 up, you're gonna push because you're not gonna make us look bad in front of the Army.
Yeah, exactly. Leo's saying in the chat, he's like, Squid's picking on Marines because Marines are the Navy's men's department. And Leo's an old Navy guy, so
yeah.
But yeah, we had the interaction between Connor and the Twaka, and they start like building this relationship, and right away it's like, well, you guys, can you help us go get our buddy back, and then which I got to tell you, where's oh my god, where's my button? I got to tell you that there it is. Aha! Now I'm safe. Bone creature at the end. That's all I'll say. That I was like, that is some freakiness. That is some absolute freakiness.
What gets worse is, remember who was in the blanking on the word now.
I didn't do it. It's not my fault.
Yeah. Whose spirit was bound to that thing?
Yeah. And I mean, bravo. That was cool. The vampire was cool. The way that it all went about, very, very evocative of what you were going for, and like the kind of the tone of it all. So, I mean, very, very cool.
I talked to I talked to Jason at one point about, is this getting a little bit too vampire tropey? And he proceeded to tell me what they had done to Ravenloft, and said, I don't think I think that's exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah.
So I roll with it.
We need a monster. We don't need all the frills and lace and soliloquy and blah blah blah.
And I've always hated the sympathetic vampire nonsense. This thing is a monster.
Yeah. Leo saying the last Lost books were creepy AF at the boss fight. Oh hell yeah, dude. So that kind of brings us around to the third book in the series, which was Darkness and Stone. One of the things that happened was we went for a new artistic direction for the cover, which just came out really, really, really amazingly. So we were all kind of like, oh, no kidding. All right, that's dope. And right now this isn't working. There we go. So, but it was really cool to have to see that up close look of Twaka, and have the have them go fingers on trigger. I mean, that was just really, really dope. But now we start getting into, oh, that's got a freaking border on it. Now we start getting into like more politics, because now it's not just humanity and the Twaka. It's now the Menenkai. It's now the Fomorians. And I mean, can you talk a little bit about like the process that went into that book? Because now they're getting into like big politics type stuff.
Yeah. Well, I actually don't remember what exactly brought me to putting the Menenkai in the north. They're kind of, I borrowed a lot from the Finns, the Kalevala type Finns for, yeah. As for Leo's, glittering in daylight, I'm going to steal a line from Larry Correa. In real life, vampires only sparkle when they're on fire.
I always enjoyed that meme that somebody did a couple of years ago, and it's got like somebody did a video of like if Call of Duty and Twilight were mixed, right? And then
I've seen the couple from Twilight with Blade
Blade behind them. Yeah, they do that at the end. I was dying, dude. I'm like, finally somebody who gets it. But yeah, so you start seeing some of these big politics coming in, and not just big politics, but like this is the first time we really get a deep glimpse at like one of the old ones.
Yeah, so the cosmology was starting to come together more in my head as I was working on this one as well. And well, we'll have to keep the series going, but there's a very good chance that we might meet the summoner at some point.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, like I remember I was walking my dog, and like when I listened to a lot of these manuscripts, I put them on my phone. And I just have it read it back to me. And you really, a lot of times, you don't get a lot of the nuance until you listen to it later with the real narrator, right? So you're just kind of going through. But I can still remember walking into this like there's this little like lowland area with swamps and stuff like that. And I'm walking through the dog. It's starting, the sun was just kind of coming up because it was really early in the morning, and I'm like. The scene on the boat when they encounter the first of the elders, and you're just like, there's something could come out of the swamp right now and just yank me in, and nobody would know anything. I'd be toast. And I just remember how creepy that was, and you get the sense of like he's looking at this thing's eye. And just when they think it's dead, it's like more stuff and you're just like, oh my God, this is creepy fun. I love it. I'm so addicted.
Yeah, if things seem to be too easy, with the military thriller stuff, if things seem to be too easy, it's time for Murphy to flip the table over. with this stuff, if things seem to be too easy, it's time for things to get weird.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing too. Like Murphy is in everything, and. We used to have like an expression we would use. They would say, "Oh, what happened? Oh, I got Murphy walked." And everybody knew what we were talking about.
Yeah, we had it was supposed to be a 2-week op in Western Al-Anbar. The official name of it was Operation Southern Scimitar. We renamed it halfway through to Operation Murphy Rules.
Like you do.
Everything went wrong on that.
Yes.
Yes. Even Cthulhu bows before Murphy.
So can you talk a little bit about what went wrong, or is it still under the umbrella?
Oh no, it was. Let's see. One of the trucks ate 3 fan belts in 100 yards.
Oh my God!
We had to swap it out with one of the grunt trucks. Finally, get on the road like an hour late. Get a few miles out into the desert. That same vehicle suddenly turns 90 degrees and goes bounding off into the wasteland. They finally get it stopped. Driver insists he didn't fall asleep at the wheel. Bullshit. My good buddy of mine was the assistant team leader on that team, and he was in the back seat. And he's probably concussed, kind of pulling himself together. And his gunner says, "Hey, Sergeant Moulton, the gun's gone." And he's like, We'll find your M4 later. No, the mark is gone.
Oh my God.
They hit so hard it sent the Mark 19 flying 25 yards.
Oh my God.
Still worked. Sights were all banged up, but it still worked.
Those things are kind of a beast anyway, but still, not something you want to launch off the top of a truck.
No. So get them back on the road, go a little bit farther, log her up for the night. And about 2 a.m,
Oh no.
the retching and the shitting started. Like 80% of the platoon had. It turned out that the entire every fob and cop in the town had gotten food poisoning from the tray rats that night.
It was that 07, 08?
07.
Yeah. Yeah. We got hit.
Yeah.
They're like, how come you ain't sick? I'm like, because I don't eat that food.
Couldn't have. But yeah, so that went for about the next 36 hours. Something like 100, 200 named areas of interest we had to check out, and none of them turned out to be real. It's like, oh, there should be a structure up here. There's nothing there, sir. It was a Bedouin tent. We should be coming up on some buildings here. It's a well, sir.
It's a well, sir. How did the leadership react to statements like that?
To his credit, he just kind of rolled with it, and finally, after we also got the 7-ton stuck, and it took 2 Humvees to pull it out.
Oh my God!
At least 1 flat tire. There's a reason why we called it Operation Murphy Rules.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys.
It was a ride.
So Leo wanted to know if they gave you guys Cipro. Every time I go overseas, I got 2 or 3 courses.
Suck it up, rub some dirt on it.
It's true. It's true. And like how much of some of your experiences that you went through when you deployed, stuff like that, how much of that ends up in some of these books?
I like to say that it informs them, but I don't necessarily transpose stuff most of the time. There was one scene in Ice and Monsters when Connor wakes up, thinks that he fell asleep on security, realizes that no, he'd been supposed to be sleeping, and Santos says that he scared the crap out of him. I did draw that from personal experience. Because great. I sat straight up in the hide side, thought I'd fallen asleep on security, and scared the piss out of my assistant radio operator, who was actually on security. I didn't roll over. I didn't just start and kind of sit up. Nope. Straight up like Dracula out of the coffin.
Did he jump out of his poncho a little bit?
I think he just kind of froze.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, so we get this big, getting back to book 3, we get this big kind of like engagement, like, hey, we're not really here for this, but since we are, I mean, we'll do what we can. Is that something that you encountered a lot when you were overseas? Like, hey, we're not really here for this, but we'll do what we can.
It was more a matter of, oh, hey, we're not really here for this, so we're going to leave these people to hang. Well, we check off our boxes. And it was kind of, if I had the option to say, well, we're not really here for this, but that's more what fed into that. Because that situation I talked about with where the house was on fire and that was the most graphic, but we saw a lot of places where we went and people were friendly and cooperated, and we'd come back a month later and, oh yeah, old boy got murdered the week after you left.
Oh, yeah, no bueno.
So yeah, I've said before that a lot of what I write is kind of shooter wish fulfillment. It's like, that's why I usually write mercenaries.
So you don't have big Marine Corps looking over your
I don't have
shoulder?
big Marine Corps looking over my character's shoulder. There's a certain degree of, if we hadn't had the bureaucracy holding us down.
Right on. Right
Now,
on.
it doesn't necessarily mean it all goes perfectly according to plan. Ask anybody who's read Maelstrom Rising. Nothing ever goes perfectly according to plan. But
The thing I really liked about Darkness and Stone is they actually, in the story they're actually talking about, hey, we're on our own here. We can kind of do our own thing. And then when they talk to Mathkaman, they're like, well, we could do our own thing. And he's like, I'm kind of bound by honor. So like even the guys who should be the most free and the most capable of doing something, even they have their kind of ROE and the way they need to operate to maintain alliances and balance and all that stuff. And I thought that was pretty interesting, just when it's like new big Marine Corps, now instead you have this whole political element that you have to kind of adhere to and kind of work through.
yeah, and there's a degree of there's still a degree of that survival mode there as well, because they've got the Claire Ansec that can resupply them, but there's only one.
Yeah,
and
that's the tough
on
part.
the other side of the ocean.
And we kind of get a little into that in book 4 when they get into some trouble and it's like they're like, we need a resupply. So can you talk about like the transition to book 4 and like one of the interesting things is now we're starting to see this overall plot where what seemed like a simple battlefield pickup has played into a larger narrative where now instead of just I just got this sword and luckily it does some stuff against the stuff we're fighting, it's part of a whole bigger expansive like me carrying this around has changed a lot of stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'll be perfectly honest, that was not part of the plan initially. It came to me as I was going into this, and that led to there's another one, and okay, these are blessed weapons. Well, what exactly does that mean? Oh, well, a couple of messengers of Tagarn brought it down out of the sky one day. That makes it a little more interesting. And I don't really touch on it in Swords, but it may be coming up in The Alchemy of Treason. But the question has always been, who is that luminous figure that Connor keeps seeing?
Yeah, at the edge of his kind of like peripheral vision, which starts in book 1. The thing I really love about this book is it kind of tests people. It really shows you what the Marines that are on the ground are really good at in regard to like the political end of it. Like because of the main character Connor carrying the sword, he's getting a lot of people deferring to him. It's like is that the you're the guy we need to deal with then, even though it's been, throughout the series, Gunny is the man, he's the guy
as
that,
far as Connor's concerned, Gunny's still the man.
yeah. And you get like a lot of these factions, especially the two, and I really enjoyed in the beginning of the book, Connor interacting with them and kind of like finding out about the um, kind of like the backstory, not really their backstory, but like more like their place within the culture. Like these are knights, but it's not just guys whacking each other with sharp sticks wearing plate armor. Like these guys have responsibilities, and you see that like when they get to that one city and they're like, well, what's going on? And then you find out, and you're like, I mean, I had thoughts of like certain things that like almost like matched up with like The Witcher, right? And I'm just like, dude, and it's very similar because the idea of this like, and I'm not going to spoil it obviously, but like, this idea that people turn a blind eye to evil being done as long as it's not being done to them. And I thought that was very well done, but I also really enjoyed the whole aspect of people keep turning to him because he's got this relic and it's supposed to mean something. And he's just like, but Gunny. And it's really, really cool that way. Can you talk a little bit more about the swords and what that kind of means for the series going forward?
Well, I think in some respects they were possibly brought to this world because of the swords. And they were definitely brought as a wild card. There's a lot that's stirring that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
We start to see it in Swords Against the Night with the Empire of Aranator. But they're not even the top tier yet. They obviously the Emperor wants to be.
Yep.
Which is why he thinks he's in control of certain ancient entities that don't necessarily have their heads attached anymore. But there's a lot coming that it's going to take a few books to get to.
Right on. That's good. That's good news. I really enjoy this series. I'm very glad that it's being made, and very glad that you guys are continuing to push this out. Because man, oh my God, so good. And the various Wargate books that I get to look at, they all have this kind of unique personality. The thing I really like about The Lost is the fact that it's like, we're black on ammo, boys. Draw your swords, and then all of a sudden, like straight up voodoo chaos, and you're like, that's a little more than my sword can handle. We need to go get explosives. I really like that about the series is that just when they think they got it handled, right? It really, really, really the land of the lost keeps one upping them. Which is just fantastic.
Some of that is again going back to the old stories instead of the more modern. I'd almost say gamified version where if you just whack on it enough times and bring down its hit points, then and hit it with the right spells, then it's like, no, that's not the way the old stories worked.
Yeah,
there was always a catch.
Low Pro wanted to know. So, Pete, when did you decide you were going to base a book around the late '90s Marine Corps recruiting ad? Marine using a sword to mess up a dragon? I mean, you didn't even take artistic license.
It's not a lava dragon.
Right.
There was a lava monster in the recruiting ads.
Because didn't he like
the greatest military recruiting ads ever made, hands down?
Didn't he like pull out the sword and there were like sparks as he's pulling it out?
Oh yeah, he's slashing it and there's sparks and fire flying out, and then he points it up at the sky and lightning strikes it and it turns into the Marine NCO sword.
Right. The thing that still strikes me about that ad all those years later is when it strikes it and becomes the Marine NCO sword, the snap and pump of that hitting his shoulder, you're just like, damn, that's That was always cool. Like when you became an Army NCO, they were like, "Here's your stripes, kid. Get out. You got a job to do. Get to work."
For I was recon, and for recon is as an MOS, we're drill rocks.
Yeah.
We can maneuver, we can shoot, we can sneak up on you and blow you up, but when it comes to drill ceremonies, we suck. We take a certain degree of pride in that.
Yeah.
Priorities.
Well, I mean, if you got to spend a day at the range or a day slapping your sword against your shoulder, I know which one I'd take.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
But with Swords Against the Night, once again, the political game gets bigger as they're now introduced to this wider world. With the upcoming book, Alchemy, are we seeing that one up again, or do we have a?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
We're going to find that the Galel are not exactly monolithic.
Right on. That's dope.
They may all have pledged allegiance to King Uven, but
and that word hits as hard as the round coming out of that 110. That one word, but it never plays like you think it's going to. So we've seen a bunch of great monsters out of mythology. We've got the sea trolls, the giants, vampires, and kind of like ghouls and stuff like that. We've seen a couple of like really scary magical things happen, including like the whole blood rites from the first book. What are some of the things that people who are tuning in for book 5, what can they be expecting when they crack open the spine and get to that first page?
There's when we left him at the end of Swords, they're still out on the plains. So at the beginning of Alchemy, they're trying to get back to Galil territory. Things have gotten a little bit sketchier on the border. So actually, our very first scene will be Connor with his buoy, sneaking up on an Avar sentry.
He's going for that Marine Corps knife kill. We were just talking about that.
We're doing some straight up sentry removal.
Oh, that's crazy. Now for stuff like that,
they don't quite get to things before the shaman starts to do stuff that's weird.
Oh, so we could see more like the arrow scene in Shadows and Crows.
It's not quite to that level.
Because let me tell you,
thanks to a well thrown spear, it kind of stops short of that. But
oh my god! Because let me tell you, that one scene, that arrow scene, holy crap! That's every time I crack one of the Lost books, I'm like, I just hope I don't get another scene like that, because that was creepy. I loved that scene, but at the same time, like the description and the way, because I was with the 82nd right when we were getting ready to invade Haiti, and we had to take all these classes on voodoo and the Loa and like all the stuff that you could encounter, because some of it was dangerous. And that's the first thing that hit my brain, like some of those classes. And I'm just like, yep, I'm officially creeped out. I'm going to go hug my dog and cradle something that shoots at more than 900 feet per second.
Yeah. Well, my thought on that was they're up in the high country.
Yeah.
And so poison's going to be iffy. They curse their arrows.
Yeah. I love that scene. I love that scene. That scene was dope. And I, like I said, every time I get, like when you're like, hey, check this out. Here's the first, so many pages of this. Tell me what you think. And I'm just like, okay, no arrows, no arrows.
Note to self:
More arrows, more curses.
one up the arrow.
But like I said, there's a lot of these moments in there, and you're just sitting there, and you know they're coming, right? Like in the first book, they're going through that mountain pass to chase after the guys that they lost, and they come up against that like giant, and they're basically hacking at this dude, and just he's just taking it and pounding out like excessive amounts of damage. That's a standout scene. The um the the way the ghouls kind of followed the vampire in the second book, right? Also very creepy, very evocative, and very like monstrous. There wasn't like, I'm a vampire. Could you please put your blood in this cup so I can drink it? Thanks. I like to sparkle. You got that sense of monstrous, got the sense of savagery through kind of like, not really diplomacy. It's not the word I'm looking for, but like almost like a sense of civility, or excuse me, savagery masquerading as civility, because he still maintained this castle and he still did this, and tried to keep himself in a throne. You know, yeah. So all these books have just those like really standout moments where you're just like, you shiver because it's very well done. So yeah, that's really cool. So for the last couple of minutes before I go hug my dog and cradle something that shoots faster than 900 feet per second, because no, thinking of those scenes. Um, so a couple of quick questions. Will Gunny ever have his own, and they put quotation marks, kingdom? Will he ever separate himself and get his own kingdom?
That's going to depend on how the events transpire.
Right on.
And if he survives them.
And if he survives them. Oh my God. Um, this next question goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Will we meet the voice, the shadow aspect in the woods that constantly greets Connor?
The voice.
So I think they're talking about, like, how Connor keeps getting this like hint that something's off watching him, stuff like that. I think that's what they're talking about.
His guardian.
His guardian, yeah.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that he will find out who that is, or what. Or both.
This was more
possibly in book 5, actually.
Possibly in book 5. Right on. This was like a weird question, very short. You've done Marines. What's next? I don't know exactly what that means.
Are they asking if I'm going to bring somebody else into the world?
I don't know. That literally, you've done Marines. What's next?
All kinds of things. I don't know that anybody else is coming across the mists anytime soon.
Gotcha. Maybe they're talking about like a carrier or destroyer group or something like that. Here's
I'm just thinking a carrier comes through the mists and isn't ready for the deep ones, and the 100-hander comes up and tears it in half.
Nice. Low Pro saying Chaos Marines.
There may be there. We'll see what lies further east. Let's put it that way.
We have another question. Well, it's a run-up question, so it's like a lot of statement and then finally with a question. Read all of your books up to book 3 in the Lost. Really enjoy. I just started Fury in the Gulf. Is there any hope for Recon Marines in space?
I don't know about Recon Marines in space, but there is some space opera in the works as well. I can't say exactly when, because there's a whole bunch of stuff ahead of it. But yeah,
Possible.
possible.
Um, so not military science fiction. It would be space opera, huh?
Well, space opera in the galaxy's edge sense, maybe. I don't know.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. One more question, real quick. My phone is buzzing like crazy, so you must be popular around here. For research purposes, did you get any swords?
I might own a couple. Yes.
Oh my god. Do you ever get to whack them at anything?
Um, not in a while.
Not in a while. Right on. Yeah, they posted that one with a bunch of like a Game of Thrones throne, the one made with all the different swords and stuff like that. So seems like I am dry on questions, but definitely not dry on praise. We are really loving this series. A lot of good feedback coming out from people who have read it. Hopefully you're as excited to produce the next few as we are to read them, because let me tell you, so far this has been great, and really liking the new direction with Jeremiah on the covers. His work is very, very excellent, so
Yeah.
very stoked about that.
He took took what I came up with for the dragon, like, hey, let's make it a bit more like a serpent, and knocked it out of the park.
Oh man, grand slam. It was like grand slam. But yeah, I really enjoy his work. I like the fact that he drops really clean lines, but also still has that kind of painted quality that you're really looking for in a really good book cover. So yeah, that's dope. Um, what are some things you'd like to see on a cover of yours that you haven't seen yet?
I don't know. I usually try to think of them as I get to that particular project.
Right on.
I don't know. That's one I'd have to think about.
Oh, great! I broke them. And for those who are really looking to get see that cover in all of its glory, that's it right there. It's just really crushes it.
And yeah, the dude down on the left is Bailey.
Nice.
Rocking that M107.
Anti-material. Punch it from another zip code.
Yep.
Hell
or
yeah.
Just smack the crap out of it at whatever range you need to get up to.
Hell yeah.
And of course, that comes in a little handy against something that size.
You're going to need it. So if people want to stalk you on the internet, what's the best place to do that?
Well, I have my website's AmericanPraetorians.com. Obviously, just about everything's on Amazon. I'm on Facebook. Both Pete Nealen author is the page, and go to the Facebook page. And I do have a shop attached to American Praetorians, where I have various and sundry signed books, patches, and now maps from the Lost.
Nice.
8.5 by 11 and 16 by 20.
Oh, dude, that's great. That's great. And Shadow, the illustrator who does those maps, is a fantastic human being. She does a really great job. That's fantastic. You just dropped Mark and Reprisal as well, right?
Yep, that is book 11 in Brannigan's Black Hearts, which is my sort of callback to the 80s action novel, team-based action series, where it's not necessarily tied to current events. It's somewhat grounded, but still straight up action adventure for the sake of action adventure.
Right on. Yeah, that's definitely cool. Uh, can you talk about like real quick while one of the guys on the in the chat is asking, you should put up one of the maps. I'm going to look for it. But real quick, can you talk about that collaboration and what it was like to kind of have a fantasy map constructed of something that you've done?
Well, it actually went really smoothly because I'd kind of drawn it ahead of time because I knew roughly what it needed to look like in my head. And I'm decent with a pencil, but I can't do the digital stuff. So I passed it along to her, and she basically drew over it and added her own particular touches and textures. And yeah, and that's actually the map for book 1 and book 3 because they both happen up there.
Right on.
We've got that one. We've got the map from book 2, which is of the Land of Shadows and Crows. And we will be working shortly here on getting the map together from book 4, which is the Eastern Lands.
That'll be great. And you have all of these in that 16 by 20?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's dope. I need to get some of these for the office. Hell yeah. Yeah, that looks great. Oh, my God. Yeah, she does such a good job. She does such a good God. These people, they're like throwing questions now that we're like, oh, toward the end, they're like, no, I have a question.
It's the last 5 minutes, so you have to save rounds right and left.
Right. One of the questions coming out, they want to know, do we not get any scenes of training on a firing range? Is that because ammunition is limited due to the way it's reproduced? Yeah, I just don't think they have the time. They've gone from one battle to the next.
I mean, there's some training going on. I mean, they're training amphib inserts at the beginning that obviously of book 4 that obviously get interrupted.
Yeah,
but I don't know. In some ways, it's I can kind of see including some of it to work in some of the character stuff, but there's an awful lot going on.
Yeah.
That how much do I really want to slow things down?
For a training montage. I mean,
a training montage.
Yeah,
it's kind of like I don't go into immense detail of the 6-hour Maritime Special Purpose Force planning cycle for an operation either. Like, who wants to read about that?
Yeah, no, I want to see them whack the crap out of a dragon with a big ass rifle.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, that's great. So yeah, everybody should immediately run out, grab Swords Against the Night, then grab the Brannigan Blackheart series, and just shout at his dude with love so he knows that being a recon Marine was worth it all along. So I know I'm still trying to find meaning in what I did, but that's because I got lost a lot. But thank you so much for coming out tonight and spending a little time talking about the series. Like I said, I'm a huge fan. I love it. The fact that I'm as hooked on book 4 as I was on book 1, I mean, because
that's always good to hear.
How many times do you get a sequel and you're just like, oh, they redid the same thing again in just different names, or you get a sequel and it just didn't match up. The thing that I enjoy about this series most is that each book builds on the one before it, but doesn't feel like it's trying to overshadow the one before it. And that's where you're really doing a good job. I want to say thanks to everybody who came out and threw some questions at us, even though I fumbled through some of them because you guys type weird. But thanks again, Pete, for coming out. We really appreciate it. And please come back again when book 5 hits so that we can get everybody a little lost.
Nice.
And I'm going to hit